Welcome, everybody. My name is Blair Canavan, and I'm with Talus Group, based out of freezing cold Ottawa, Canada today. And with me on the TalkingTrust video series is my partner in crime, Andrew Silberman. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, Blair. How are you?
Great, thank you. I know we're both suffering through a little bit of the cold weather, so hopefully this will brighten our day just a little bit. But I just want to thank you again for joining our 2021 TalkingTrust video series to chat about how our two companies are partnering to deliver a very comprehensive and highly trusted privileged access management, or PAM, solution to the market. So just between you and I, this is just a friendly chat. We'll try and keep this light, as everybody seems to prefer that type of format these days. So I'm really looking forward to just hearing what your thoughts are on this. So I'd be more than happy to give you the baton, and you can advance the slides as you see fit, and then we'll try and answer a couple of each other's questions throughout. Sound good?
Sounds good, Blair. Thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to the discussion today.
You're welcome.
So as you can see, I think what we wanted to do first is really set the stage and talk first about the expansion of privileged identities. So up until several years ago, what we mostly thought of IT admins were considered as your sort of typical privileged user. In today's environment, really almost any identity can be privileged under certain conditions. So this can be a developer or DevOps engineer who has access to source code or DevOps pipeline and tools. These are all things that can easily impact the organization's production environment, and therefore they represent high risk, as would any sort of typical IT system. It can also be in the form of an application or a robotic process automation bot that needs high privileges in order to access corporate resources to perform various business tasks. These privileged identities can also be third-party or external vendors that need to access corporate resources from really anywhere in the world. And it can also be a workforce team member that needs to access, say, a financial system with high privileges based on their role or responsibility. So the common layer here is that all these types of privileged access, it represents high risk to the organization. Therefore, it requires high level of security controls. So privilege is really now everywhere, and so are the risks associated with it. Privilege exists across the entire IT stack, including the data, the applications, endpoints, the network, across hybrid infrastructure, all the way to hybrid cloud. So a privileged user, or within that sort of identity space, a privileged user is any user that has the ability to change, alter, impact the operational service of a business process. So in any organization, this includes not only system admin, but also users that you may not typically be considered as privileged, like me and you, Blair, marketing people or business development.
Right.
But privileged access, it extends to non-human or machine users as well, such as apps or service accounts. And things like the move to the cloud and digital transformation and this increased use of automation, they all dramatically expand this attack surface. And each step forward, it creates new doors that need to be locked. So that's a theme we're going to talk a lot about today, is keys and locks and doors. So try to bear with us there. But when we take a step back, it seems like an insurmountable challenge. Now, how do we do this without boiling the ocean? And more importantly, how do we do this without slowing things down? So we can't slow the speed of our digital transformation in the sake of security, and vice versa. We can't sacrifice security for the sake of digital transformation. Blair, obviously we're both doing this from home today. I have to imagine you're seeing really a mass proliferation of the workforce, right, across all different places.
Absolutely. And we take it for granted. We're just users, but it's not just the users that you just mentioned. You mentioned that it's users, it's machines, it's apps, it's everything. So that all is under the same cloud per se.
Definitely. So that's again sort of under this theme of privileges everywhere. And so with that, just introducing the CyberArk identity security platform, which focuses on three main pillars, one of which I'll dive into a little bit further detail than the other. The first one being privilege, but the other being just as important with access, as well as DevSecOps, which is this continuing to emerge space. A quick background, I know we're on the Talus side, but quick scoop on how the solution access works. So to access a privileged account, a user first enters the CyberArk web portal and checks out an account that which they have access to. And the CyberArk Digital Vault, which is protected by multiple layers of security, then provides the user with that credential. The vault retrieves the credential for the user, and the user can then go on and access their target system, whether it exists, as you said, in a hybrid or a cloud environment. So CyberArk provides powerful capabilities to automatically discover and onboard privileged accounts and credentials into the vault. And once these accounts have been centrally secured, they're rotated automatically, either at a regular cadence determined by organizational policy or through regulatory requirements after each use or on demand as necessary. The automated password rotation helps to strengthen security and address audit requirements, all while eliminating time-intensive and manual processes for the IT teams. So we talked earlier on the slide prior about not sacrificing operational efficiency for the sake of security and vice versa. That really speaks to it. But to further ensure that authorized users are always able to access privileged accounts when needed, the CyberArk Vault proactively checks that account passwords are synchronized between target systems and the vault, and any conflicts are automatically resolved, or the administrator can go in and do it themselves. The Vault also offers centralized policy management, which allows admins to set policies for password length and strength, the frequency of password rotations, which users may access which safes. So for instance, Blair might have access to a different set of accounts and systems than I would, and which account credentials exist in each safe. And finally, I want to break this up a bit, but there's an Active Directory integration, which helps to simplify the policy creation process. So that enables you as a CyberArk customer to set policies based on 80 user groups. And based on your security needs, you can opt to show the user the password or copy that password, and hiding the characters of the password, but enabling it to be copied into a needed application or a direct connect, which sets off a workflow to seamlessly establish a session on a target system without allowing the user to see or copy the password. Now, to put this in a context, Blair, have you ever, maybe shamefully or not, have you ever reused a password across different applications or accounts of your own, just in your own sort of personal space?
I'm going to say, in quotes, no, with a question mark. But I think we all agree that is fundamentally one of the biggest challenges, is that we do what we got to do to get through the day, and oftentimes we repeat what we're used to and what we're comfortable with remembering, or following the password specifics in terms of format and so on. So yeah, I think we're all guilty.
Definitely, and we've done a study recently that showed sort of the percentage of people that are reusing passwords across different applications, and it's something to certainly think about. But it's human nature, as you said, and there's not much that we can do to avoid that. It's just there's only so much room in everyone's brains to figure that out. But the next component that's really critical within the CyberArk solution is this concept of session isolation, monitoring, and recording. So the CyberArk solution acts as a secure jump server, which isolates privileged user sessions, and it establishes a single point of control from which security and audit teams can then monitor, record, suspend, and terminate sessions. So here's how it works, and I'll do a little click through here. So
thank you.
A user would log in to CyberArk, to the CyberArk web portal like they were on the prior slide, and then select their needed account, say to access their AWS Cloud Management Console. So their privileged session to this console is isolated via a proxy server, and their behavior is recorded. So to accommodate sysadmins' preferred tools and workflows, we also offer native session management to Linux systems through our native command line SSH connectivity. This is also applicable for native access through Windows clients like RDP or SSMS. Now, upon selecting or defining the needed account, our solution validates the user's permissions, it retrieves the privileged password or SSH key from the digital vault, and sends it directly to the target system for authentication. So CyberArk then establishes this secured, isolated remote session and records all this activity during the session. So these recordings are then securely stored in the CyberArk Vault so that users are unable to edit their audit histories. And the Vault also provides the credential, and user connects to the system. This has really two additional purposes. So first, because the user is never actually directly connecting to target systems, and the target system is locked down, any potential malware that might reach the end user's workstation, in this animation, a laptop, it can't be used to jump onto the critical system. And second, credentials are retrieved by the solution and sent directly to the target system, so neither the end user nor the machine's exposed to the credential. This is really critical. We see endpoints being the weak point in the attack chain all over the place today. So this is a really critical thing that all organizations should be implementing in regards to privileged access management. So now to get into this a little bit more, and in terms of talking about why are we talking today? What's the CyberArk plus Thales story? It's all about securing the keys to the kingdom, right, Blair?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we all talk about keys as if everybody's following succinctly with every use of or what they are. But I think what we're trying to talk about are from the digital key point of view, the SSL key pairs that most of us are fundamentally comfortable talking a little bit about. I'd be curious as to how critical are these keys within a PAM infrastructure. Maybe you could describe a little bit about the keys to the kingdom per se.
Yeah, definitely. So as sort of alluded to, privileged account credentials are really the keys to the IT kingdom, as you said. So external attackers and malicious insiders know that by gaining access to a privileged account or a privileged account credential, that this is really their most effective way to gain access to your critical data. So safely generating and storing the keys used for these access credentials is a really, really critical part of the security solution. So together with CyberArk, Thales offers two solutions that can actually generate and store the server keys, providing private key protection and strong entropy for key generation for the CyberArk Privileged Access Manager. So Blair, did you want to talk a little bit more here about Luna?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Luna has been around for decades, and for some people, Luna really fundamentally means root of trust. It's the hardware security module that keeps the keys to the kingdom in a tamper-resistant hardware appliance. This is FIPS 140-2 Level 3 validated, which gives comfort, but also compliance and regulatory support for implementing your infrastructure such that, again, all keys at all times never leave, stay in the same place, and are managed according to that type of validation. So for a lot of us who, again, take that sort of thing for granted, it's generally because it's transparent. It sits in the back. You don't see it, feel it, touch it, other than when you generate for the first time or when the operational requirements push some type of application or request to have some key signed or some object signed. That's really where these boxes silently do their job. And because they're network connected devices, you can point multiple devices, multiple applications at the same time to the same device that sits in the network environment. So again, these are very, very simple solutions, but very complex architecturally from a cryptographic point of view to make sure that, again, that those keys are stored in the safest place imaginable.
Absolutely. So within that, and as we were talking to put this together, a concept that came up to me that I wasn't as familiar with, and maybe people listening as well, random number generation is really something that I like to think most people don't know about. So are HSMs better suited to provide that random number generation?
Yeah, it's a simple component, but a very essential component of generating keys. RNG, as it's often called, is something that is under intense scrutiny these days, primarily because just the whole scope of a cloud environment and the sheer span of the internet. So more than ever, RNG means that a good key must be random. So when keys are generated in these devices, the key and use policy is enforced, and the system is more resistant to this type of attack by using, again, hardware-based entropy creation. So this is the seed that's necessary to generate the SSL key pair. So again, HSMs protect it and store this in the root of trust. Another element of cryptography not a lot of people care or talk about, but when someone asks you that question about RNG, it's simply asked, we've got an HSM, it's FIPS validated level 3, and it's the highest level of RNG available in the market. So they're isolated from the host environment. And again, these keys don't leave the device under any circumstances. So I think I've covered most of that. I've covered the FIPS, the boundary, and of course, I should mention the lifecycle hardware key management is there so that anytime that there is a key rollover or changes or exchanges, the HSM is in step and maintains that continuity from a key management point of view. So, I've talked a little bit about what our stuff does. But from your perspective, I'd like to hear, Andrew, what do you think the risks are? What risks are introduced, I should say, when you store keys just in software alone?
Sure.
Isn't software good enough?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's one that I think a lot of organizations sort of grapple with. But the challenge with this is that keys used to secure credentials that control access to privileged accounts, they're vulnerable, frankly, if stored in software, or it's not as secure as it maybe should be. So individual password and accounts stored, they each have their own unique file key. So it's an AES 256 encryption key. While the passwords are stored in safes, which have their own individual key, the server key. If the attacker is able to actually break AES 256 for one file or one password, that only works for one password and one file. And by having the HSM level 3 compliant module, that generates the key, which never leaves the HSM. So now what we've done is that we have top level cryptographic keys that's under the most strict controls, which protects the password vault from brute force or really any other type of attack out there. The HSM integrates with CyberArk to protect CyberArk itself with top-level encryption. So no key is exposed to any user at any time. Attackers who gain access to these keys and software, they have access to the keys to the kingdom. And obviously, we want to prevent that at all costs. And so we do so by protecting keys within HSM boundaries. And so I guess, and Blair, feel free to chime in here, but to summarize it, and you can see some of the points written on the right side here, but together this solution, what it really does, it helps to securely store keys to ensure that only authorized users are accessing your vault. Similar to a bank vault, you only want the authorized users accessing their own safes. Same goes for cybersecurity, same goes for the IT kingdom. And so really what this out-of-the-box integration does, it enhances security, reduces risk. That's what we're all about. It provides all the bells and whistles along with it for reporting, for audit. It's flexible, scalable, and it integrates with all sorts of different workflows. But Blair, I could pass things over to you if there's anything on top of that you wanted to add. Definitely welcome that sort of insight. But other than that, I think we can maybe talk about some next steps here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew. And I think we've walked through, I think in pretty good specifics, the overall value of our two solutions coming together. We have the CyberArk Privileged Access Management piece, which on its own has its merits and absolute capabilities in the PAM space. Combine that with leading HSM technology from Thales, and to your point, no compromise required. When you get these two products and solutions together, they offer a very comprehensive, very simple implementation, which requires very little care and feeding at the end of the day. So I just wanted to say that I think you did a great job of walking us through the value, and certainly the way that we work together as two companies in the marketplace speaks volumes to, again, the acceptance of this type of solution as a standard implementation throughout the industry. I'll say the last thing I think from an agenda point of view is that we've got a bunch of resources and so on available to those who are interested in looking a little bit further. And with that, we've got our solution briefs, we've got our integration guides, and these are very good resources in terms of simplicity, as I mentioned. And for anyone who's embarking upon this on the first time, it's quite simple, surprisingly simple for something as complex from an implementation point of view. So I don't know if I've covered everything. Oh, excuse me, I almost forgot about the CyberArk, the marketplace, and where we, again, if you can't get it from CyberArk, you can get it from Thales, and that's what we do is we co-brand each other's solutions on our partner pages. And just want to point out that you can get it from either directly through myself or yourself, but I would say the best bet is just go straight to our website, get those resources.
Cool. Well, Blair, again, thanks for having me on the talk today. I hope it was informative. I think it went pretty well, and hopefully we can talk soon.
Look forward to it, Andrew. Again, thanks a lot for your time today. It was a pleasure having you on the Talking Trust video series.
My pleasure.
Thank you.